This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sunny Side Up Family Talks, where if it involves the family, we talk about it. And that's what we're going to be here discussing today is another very, very compelling topic that I think if you can see from the board behind me, we're going to be talking about why is it so important that you continue dating your spouse. But before we get into that, I wanted to welcome everyone to the show this morning. We're so grateful that you guys are able to join us. I also wanted to welcome my wonderful co-host whose mere name emits the kind of emotion we all wish that we had, right? Good morning, Sister Joy.
Good morning. Thank you, Brother Robert. Yes, joyful indeed I am. And not just because it's in my name, but it really is a joyful day. Only because we are here and all of you all are joining us. So thank you for joining us if you are tuning in from wherever you are, because this is a global show from all over the world. We want to know where you're listening from or where you're watching from. So please be sure that you let us know, especially in our YouTube chat, because always excited to see where everyone is listening and viewing from. We love to hear where you guys are coming from. So kind of giving you a little snippet of what we're going to be discussing today, right, Brother Robert?
Absolutely. Well, and you know, I think the title can be a little bit of a misnomer, right? Love on repeat. You know, it's like pressing repeat on when your favorite song comes on, you just keep playing it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But unlike your favorite song, you never get tired of your spouse, right?
Right.
Even though you could get tired of a song, you'll never get
That's
tired of
true.
your spouse. And the reason we bring this up today is because, you know, we talked about it right before the show. And one of the things in society that seems to be so prevalent now is people are focusing so much on what they call self-care, right? And me time, alone time. And, you know, although that's extremely important, especially for, you know, your mental health.
Yes.
But one of the things that we need to be sure that there's a balance. I think we you know, we talk about is that you've got to have that balance between that, what you're calling me time and alone time, and also spending that us time with your spouse. Because, you know, no matter how long it is that you've been married, I think that when you're younger and you are like newlyweds, you know, in your early 20s, a lot of that, the feelings that you had when you first started dating your spouse, you know, are easy to kind of recollect because it's still pretty recent, right?
You know, I have to agree with you 100% because when when you're dating, right, and then you become married, it's just so new and it's so it's just such a beautiful feeling. And I think that after you've been married for some time, you get into this mindset like, okay, now the responsibilities have set in, like, right, it becomes so real and you're like, gotta work, gotta provide, and then you add children to the mix, additional responsibilities into the mix, and it's often and it's sad, right? It's so sad that we sometimes push it, we don't prioritize it as much after being married for a while. So I think it's so super 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 duper important that we become super intentional, put just making that definitely a priority is something that we have to do, especially if you've been married for a while. So yes, love on repeat, making sure that this happens. So we're going to start talking and discussing how do we do that, right?
You know, I
And
love
for-
that word, intentional.
yeah.
Intentional is such a perfect word for that
Mhm.
because you could date your spouse on accident, right? By accident because you're driving by and like, oh, are you hungry? I'm hungry. Let's pull over and
There
let's
you
get something
go.
to eat. But I think this is kind of what we talked about earlier is
Mhm.
that the intentionality,
Mhm.
the scheduling, the being
Yeah.
on purpose, right, makes a big difference because one, it obviously shows that there's some thought behind it, right? And as a husband for 35 years, I can tell
Wow.
you that our mind slips and we get caught up in just life. With all the things that happen. But it's so easy to kind of just forget to do that with, like you said, intentionality,
Mhm.
meaning that we're going to set a date. We're going to set some time. I'll admit I've gotten better. You're going to have to check in with
But
Sister Lulu about that.
let's see what
But
Mama Luca has to say,
I
right?
think I've gotten a little better at trying to be sure that I can carve that out
But you know what? I
because
think that's exactly the point, right? I mean, we're all just trying to get better. For me as a wife, who doesn't like to go out? Who doesn't like to get dressed up? Who doesn't want to plan these really, and it doesn't have to be fancy, right? Just the time, planning the time to do that. And we all do. And I think just part of that, making sure that we repeat, that behavior is that we try to prioritize that and try to make that happen, not on accident, like you mentioned. I mean, it's so easy. We're like, okay, we're running to the store, we're running to do these errands, but let's actually put this on the calendar, right? Let's place a high priority in making sure that that happens, whatever it is.
absolutely. Well, yeah, and you know what that does too is it creates
Mhm.
this anticipation that you
Oh,
need,
yes.
right? Because imagine you like struggling through a week, and we do this all the time when we're looking forward to things like we're looking forward to going on vacation, we're looking
Mhm.
forward to
Uh,
the latest episode of the favorite show that we're binging that's going to be coming out, right? And sometimes when you're having that day, and we've all had that day, right? You're
yes.
having that day where you're just like, ugh, I just can't do this anymore. I'm tired. That at least those things give you something to look forward to.
Oh, yes. 100.
Setting your date with intentionality does the same thing. It's a near term sort of endorphin rush to help you kind of get through Wednesday, right? Because when
Yeah.
Wednesday's rough
Runs to
and
Wednesday. You're halfway there through the week.
exactly. So, you guys set a date for Friday night. If you have
Mhm.
kids, you find somebody who's going to babysit, or you find grandparents like us who you could just drop the baby off with,
There you
and
go.
then
So
you
if you have little kids, remember Brother Robert's right here.
yeah, we're not publishing my address, so the house is full. But having something to look forward to is so important because that's what gets you through those
Mhm.
times when you're struggling. Because
Mhm.
we always look forward to going on vacation, right? But you
Yes.
usually, when you book the cruise or you book the trip to a theme park, those things are months in advance.
Yes.
Sometimes you need something to get me through today.
Yes.
So this way I can look forward to it tomorrow. And that's what
Mhm.
these kind of things do is that they sort of help us set that mentality that
Mhm.
gets you to look forward to something. Now, when we talk about dating, like for
Mhm.
example, when you and brother Billy first started dating, do you remember your first date?
I do. I clearly remember our first date, and it was, and I have to smile because if you've been listening to us for a long time, I grew up and I grew up mostly eating at home. We cook at home. These are just the this is what I grew up with. So when he took me out, it was a pretty big deal. I'm like, oh my goodness. And you guys, he took me to Chili's, like it was
Oh, the
to me.
restaurant?
Yes, the restaurant. And so I was like, this is so, like, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And here I am. He's probably like, where has this girl been?
It's it's just Chili's.
Yeah, it's just Chili's. But it was really special. And just looking back at it, it was really nice. And to fast forward a little bit, what's really funny is that when our kids were a little small, that was one of their favorite restaurants. You
Oh,
know?
really?
Yeah.
Was that you
So
mean like when you were before you dated him?
no, yeah. So before we did, so when we dated, that was the first place that he took me, right? And then when the kids got, a little bit like when they were maybe about Jamie's age, like when they're about toddlers, and then I remember Caleb was an infant. We took them, and they're like, it became one of those things like where we would just go maybe once every now and then. It became one of their favorite restaurants. So, just part of the story.
That's such a cool little tradition, right? And when
Mhm.
you do it, obviously you have pretty vivid memories, right? So that first date sort of set that connection that you have, and
Yes.
that's the whole thing about courtship is, right?
Mhm.
Courtship is about developing connections because you are getting to know each other,
Mhm.
and you start to develop sort of this new knowledge about your at that time boyfriend or girlfriend, right? The
Mhm.
person you're starting a relationship with, you're getting to know them. That's what the whole process of courtship is.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people start to get into this rut when you've been married already, right? I mean, we've all heard it like,
So
oh, I don't
easy.
need to dress up anymore, I don't need to shower anymore because I'm already married.
Well, yes, you do.
you know it's yeah, don't tell my wife I said that. But the 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 rut that you get into then leads to just complacency.
It
And
does.
I think courtship never really ends.
And that's the thing. I think we forget that because we especially I would say maybe after the responsibilities really set in, right? After the honeymoon phase is over, you're thinking, okay, now, you know, these major things, these bills that you have to pay, and then it can really mount up, right? And it can feel
Right.
overwhelming sometimes that you do just kind of just get into the grind of like, let's, okay, gotta go to work, do this, do this, do that. And then it becomes just a task that like what you said, you're forgetting that those little, it's just little connections. And I think
Right.
maybe that's where it should start. Just little things. And if you watched us in the previous show, like just being grateful, just that we could start there. The
That
connection
was a
could
great
start.
episode last week. Yeah.
Yes.
About being grateful and being thankful. Absolutely.
Yes. And that would start a connection right there. And it doesn't have to be something big, nothing tremendous, just a simple thank you. But to do it with intention, right? And purpose. Like, you know what? I know it's been busy. Thank you. Thank you for taking out the trash. And you can even get emotional when you're doing it, right? And then you're like, wait a minute. Okay. It kind of slows things
This
down
is
a
I was
little
I
bit.
was gonna say, does taking out the trash make you sad?
It just means so much.
Get that smell out of here.
I know,
We
please.
well, we'd love to hear from the folks that are watching, our audience. Do you remember your spouse and you's first date? And husbands and wives, if you're both on there, I'd love to have you guys just throw it in the chat. Don't talk to each other. I'd like to see how many of you actually remember the date the same way. So what was your first date? So if you're on the chat and you're a husband and wife, both of you right now, put in the chat what was the
Hmm.
first date that you had with your spouse. And we're going to compare answers a little later, and that may turn into a whole nother episode.
Yeah, I know, right? This is gonna be
Because
fun.
I still remember my first quote official date with Sister Lulu was at a restaurant in California called El Torito. And we
Mm.
talk about it all the time now because at the time, and
Uh-huh.
she was in her mid-20s at this point, she had never had Mexican food. Could you imagine living in California and never having
Wow.
tasted Mexican food? So, of
Really?
course, the first place out of the blue, because I didn't know, um, I picked was a Mexican restaurant. That's primarily because most people mistake me for being Mexican. Um, Servers all talk to me in Spanish, but
That was
the
part of the experience, I'm
yes,
sure
yes,
too.
exactly.
Who is
The
this guy?
her getting to witness all of the servers talking to me in Spanish and me just looking at them with a blank stare. But ordering food was fun because she had no idea what the food was, and now favorite food in the world, Mexican food,
Really?
or
Love it.
chips and salsa all the way.
Oh,
But
good.
that was part of that whole discovery, the courtship,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I don't think at any point do you stop discovering more and more. I mean, it's so easy to fall into this mindset that we've been married 35 years, we know everything about each other. I'll tell you that's not exactly true.
That
That's
is,
far
yes,
from
I
the
agree with
truth.
you on that.
You're constantly discovering new things. You're constantly learning new things about likes and what it is that they are maybe interested in, new interests. In understanding those new interests is
Mhm.
what helps you to kind of keep things fresh, right?
Yeah.
Because when you start to have fewer dates with each other, meaning dedicated time alone, you're busy like taking care of the kids. You could be busy with work. You're busy with all the church responsibilities. You're busy with just all of these things. Throw in now, I have to have some me time.
Yeah.
Then communication begins to become diluted, right? It begins to fade.
Mhm.
And when you start to have that happen, then you start to really lose that connection because you aren't getting that regular and routine communication. It really just that routine just unintentionally
Mhm.
will begin to weaken that intimacy between a
Yes.
husband and wife, that
You
relationship.
I do, that is so true, and that's the reason why when you mention, like, "Do I remember my first date?" I have to tell you that feeling that I had on my first date, whenever Brother Billy takes me out, whenever we go out, even if we're like no matter what it is, I still get that feeling. I still get excited. I still look forward to it. And even if it's something very simple, something, even if it's just going out, okay, let's just go out for boba. Let's go out for coffee. I still get that. I still get those feelings. It's fun. It's something to really look forward to because it's just us. And it's really nice. So please, if you haven't done it yet, try it, carve it out. It really is something to look forward to, and it really deepen, like we mentioned earlier, it really does deepen that connection, because
Yeah.
you might not be able to escape, just discussing like what are all the responsibilities and things that are going on. But I think it's just carving that time, even if it's just for a little bit of time. That's it. Have
Yeah.
some
It doesn't
coffee,
have to
have
be an
some.
all day thing, right? It doesn't, I mean, a date
Yeah,
can be a couple of hours just to hit the
yeah,
reset button. And some advice to husbands. Sometimes the dates that you'll be asked to go on may not exactly be your cup of tea, right?
yes,
Like literally, they may ask you to go to a tea house, or they may ask you to go and do things that, where we may want to go watch a wrestling match or something, or go to, go watch an action film. Remember that a lot of these dates are going to be about compromise too, right?
yes,
So,
it sure is.
not just in places that you're going to go eat, but things that you're going to do. Maybe taking a walk.
There you go.
Maybe your wife just wants to be able to go, even, to go shopping.
Yes,
There's
go to Costco with her.
Yeah, go to Costco with her. She's
Maybe
gonna need
not.
somebody. She needs somebody to lift that 50-pound, $2.99 case of water.
Oh my
So
goodness.
to,
Isn't that
to put it
funny?
into
Brother
the
Billy
cart
tells me all the time, he's like, why did you bring me here?
because
Because
we're on a
it's
date.
like, it's endless.
We're on a
It's like,
date.
ooh, look at this. Things that you didn't know that you needed, but you need.
Exactly. Well, you need. How many times have you gone to Costco with like one thing in mind? You walk out with a cart
Oh,
full of stuff.
I don't
It's
think I've
like
had that happen yet.
that's like going to Bucky's.
Oh my goodness,
That,
yes.
that's a dangerous place, but that's another conversation.
It's on the
If you go
board.
there, you're never going to come out of there unscathed. But when you do decide that you're going to set a schedule, then it's with intention. Remember, we're going
Mhm.
to keep driving that word home, meaning it's on purpose.
It's on
That
purpose.
you set a schedule and say, maybe this week we're going to do something I like to do. Maybe next week we're going to do something that you may like to do.
Mhm.
And as long as that compromise continues, and the both of you are able to spend that time together, who knows? You may actually discover new interests,
Yeah,
right?
you just might.
With you take your wife golfing and realize that she'll probably have a better swing than you if
You
you're not.
know, that
So
that's fun too, because you do discover how we discover that we both are not very good golfers. To
yeah,
go
exactly.
to the driving
Exactly.
range. Yeah, that yeah, I discovered very quickly. I'm not a good
Oh
golfer.
well, I've
I'm
I've
not.
got I got to jump in here really quick because we do have a comment that came in on the question that we had, because one of our viewers, who happens to be our guest from last week, Brother Edu
Ooh.
Santos, put on here that he clearly still remembers their first date 9 years ago,
Oh.
and that was 1 year after having to have a long distance relationship with Sister Liza. So
Oh,
they dated long distance for a while, and then could you imagine? I
yeah.
know a lot of our viewers that's probably been the case, right? You have these long distance relationships,
Mhm.
and then that first, could you imagine that the first time that you meet somebody in person that you've been dating long distance for like a year or so, all of this has been over all, FaceTime or
Mhm.
Google Meeting or through whatever it is that you're using. That first time you get to actually hold that person and go out with them and hold hands with them. Could you that feeling just has got to be
I get butterflies just thinking about like,
yeah, right?
right?
Because
That is.
I mean, for us, it was the more traditional. We met our spouses. We're able to
Mhm.
kind of go out. You get to size each other up already, and you know, in your case, yeah, you're tall enough, Brother
I
Billy.
know. Brother Billy's he just keeps
and
looking up.
but when you do that long distance, it's a whole different dynamic, right? Because that anticipation of
Mhm.
that first time, and of course, hopefully not being disappointed. But obviously for Brother and Sister Liza, they are a perfect match. Couldn't think
Oh,
of a
they
better match.
are
So
definitely
they're
a model
great.
a couple,
Um,
model
we we
couple family.
we do also have some of our folks here that Brother Adrian Bell gets from there in Mountain States, says first dates at Bucky's should be a thing, because obviously that place is
There you
uh,
go. I think we've got
going
a
in.
double date planned out now, right? Bucky's
Yeah,
it
you can
is.
easily kill 3 hours in that place. So we're
Easy.
gonna we're gonna have a separate episode, I think, on first date ideas.
Oh,
Well,
let's
not
do it.
necessarily first date, but spouse date
Well,
ideas, and we're
date
gonna
yet
invite
here.
some of our former guests, I think, to come and join us to give us some ideas about what are some cool ideas, because dates are just a variety of different activities. It could be
It is.
dinner, could
Mhm.
be going to a walk at the park.
Yeah,
Some
and a
people,
simple walk like that. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I
A
mean, we live in
Costco
Florida.
date, right?
Yeah, Costco, a walk around Costco, you'll get your steps in for
There you
sure.
go. Eat those samples.
I'm noticing a theme here, Brother Billy. So I think you may be having a Costco run after this show. After the show,
I did
um,
ask him, so it's on the calendar for sure.
one of the one of the cool things, if you guys are into sunsets, we live in Florida. For goodness
Mhm.
sake, you couldn't ask for better, more beautiful sunsets, and doing that along the beach is a really, really cool experience down here.
It
If
is.
you are in Florida, haven't done it yet, go down to the west coast of Florida, any of the beaches that are down there, or any of the west facing beaches,
Mhm.
and just watch a sunset
Or
and
a sunrise if you
or a
want to go to
sunrise on the
the
East
East
Coast, because you
Coast.
can do that here, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is this is one of the few states where you can watch the sun rise out of the ocean in the
Mhm.
morning, hop in your car, and then watch the sun set
Yes.
into the ocean on the other side, all on the
Mm,
same day.
yes.
So
Coast to
that's
coast.
that's a Florida thing.
That
So
certainly is a Florida
for
thing.
sure, for sure. But so when we back to the conversation about why it's so important in continuing relationships. I think that as we start to get focused on the importance of setting that time and carving out that time for each other,
Mhm.
there's a lot of talk about, well, I think a lot of parents feel guilt because I don't want to leave the kids. I don't want
That's
to,
real. It's real.
I've got
Mhm.
other responsibilities I've got to do, right? I mean, you've got three
Yeah.
kids in varying ages, right? As Kalulu and I now have grown adult kids, so we leave them without even thinking about it.
Bye.
Cat will wake up in the morning on a Sunday and go, "Hey, where's mom and dad? Why am I in the house alone? Where'd they go?" We'll go off and we're having brunch someplace. But when you have little kids,
Mhm,
especially when your kids are within that age where they kind of know that you're
mhm.
around, not infants or toddlers. I'm talking, in their early, early stages of 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yes.
There's a certain degree of guilt, right, that accompanies
Very.
that. But like what how do you manage that when you and Brother Billy?
I'm gonna get real here. I'm not the one that manages it. Brother Billy's the one that's like, no, it's me and mommy.
Oh,
He
is
will
he?
lay
Oh,
down
okay.
he's
He
like,
said he
no.
sent you out of the room. He
Yeah,
says,
he's
"Go
like,
sit outside."
no, no. And I'm like, they can just no. And he'll say, no, it's only me and your mom. That's it. So I struggle with that. I struggle with that all the time, because then I'm like, oh, they might as well just come along. He's like, no, this is our time. And that's where that, when you say that you have to do this intentionally with purpose, it kind of most times it realigns me and I'm like, yes, okay, this is a time that we have to carve out for me and you. And then the kids would go, well, can you
Very.
bring me back something, can you bring me bring me back a drink? Can you bring me back like a treat or something? And then we're like, okay, that we might do. Depends how
That's the
well you keep
compromise,
the house
right?
clean.
That's the compromise is that, and then it eventually gets to the point where the kids know, says, "That's okay. We're just going to pretend we want to go, but we just really want them to bring us back something."
Yes,
Especially if you're going
exactly.
to the same place. We're going to have them bring some takeout, and we'll just stay at home and watch TV. Well,
Yeah,
and it's funny because in our family, it's kind of different. I'm the one who kind of has the FOMO of leaving the kids at home, especially even with them a little older. Like, and I sometimes have to be reminded, like, this is our time, right? It's
yeah,
we're supposed to be out so we can have conversations and talk about things that maybe you necessarily don't want to have the kids around for, because you could be talking about how to manage the family and things that you might want to be able to discuss openly
yeah,
without necessarily having to
yeah.
have them there, because kids have very big ears
They
and
do.
they hear everything.
Everything from every
Every-
room, even
Yep.
if you're outside the building, they know.
Parents, be careful. Be careful. It's new parents. I think RJ and Audrey are going to learn that really quick.
Oh, yes,
'Cause,
you do.
yeah,
It's
and
cute when they're infant and toddlers, right? And they can repeat like some of these phrases, but after a while you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, they know. They're listening. I have to go
well,
back to you mentioned you get FOMO. Think I have this story because recently me and the kids were out, and we were out somewhere. We went to this new bow spot. So if you're down
Mm.
here in the area, yeah.
You're gonna have to
gotta
send
check
that
it
to
out.
me. Yeah.
Yes, I will, and I will share. So I happened to send a picture of what we were eating to brother Billy, my husband, just so that I was like, okay, this is the next spot maybe that we should try, just me and you. And then when I sent it to him, I go, I'm sending this to you so you get FOMO. He thought FOMO was like a certain menu item.
Oh, he
So I
wanted you to order him a FOMO?
a FOMO, yes. I'm like, no FOMO. So for those of you who are listening, FOMO, fear of missing out, right?
It's fear of missing out.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think we need an episode on that. We need to go back to
Well, I think that if in his defense, you were at a bow place, so he probably thought FOMO was one of their bow
vows.
buns that they
Yes,
probably had.
exactly.
FOMO bow. It's a FOMO bow, which is true. I mean, you've got so many
Oh, that
foodie
would be a good
places. Orlando has got so many
idea.
foodies play. I could be there for a year and not eat in the same place.
You could. You
I
really
I
could.
I can assure you that that's the case. And there's just so many though because it floods your feed, right? So
Mhm,
I'm constantly looking for things for us to like something fresh, right? Because
mhm.
dating your spouse can be like a weekly date night that you have set, right? It could be
Right.
surprise gestures like notes and gifts that you leave around and things like that.
Good idea.
And you want to be sure. I always try to be sure that we're trying new things, right? Even though we have our set of favorite restaurants that we want to go to,
Mhm.
favorite places to eat in Orlando or in Tampa. And if you guys want to know them, please hit us up.
Yes.
We're happy to share. We don't gatekeep here at Sunny Side Up. We openly share all of our favorite spots, but um, trying to keep up with all of them is tough because my feed, my social media feed will have these new things, and I'm like, oh, I want to tag this, and so I'm constantly sending links to things. I flood poor sister Lulu's text messages with just a list of all these places, trying to remember them, and if there was a way for me to be able to organize all of the places that we want to eventually hit up, that would be awesome. So if
That-
somebody out there has a way that you guys organize,
Let
like
us
how
know.
it is you decide where you're going to go next, please let me know. Because at this point, I'm just drowning in suggestions, and the funny thing, at the end, we end up going to eat at a Mexican restaurant. Sometimes
It's the favorite. It's a favorite. Hey, we do have a lot of those too, you know?
because it's a go-to.
Yes,
And well here in Florida though, at Latin food, there's a ton,
there is.
right? It's
And
not
they're
just Mexican.
fusions too.
Yeah,
You have
there was
fusions like Asian and, the Latin fusions. Pretty good.
great things to try out. If and that's the thing. I think if you're dating your spouse,
Mhm.
try things that are new for both of you, because that way the two of you get to kind of experience these things together, and you sort of start to develop these new likes that you have that you can share eventually. And if you have fear of having your kids miss out, you could share it with them afterwards,
There
right?
you go.
So
Share the
make it a
pictures.
yeah. Here's your challenge. Plan one intentional date this week with your
Yes.
spouse. Okay. If you are here, you're a married couple, the two of you, before the end of this show, well, we only have a minute left because we're the fastest 30 minutes on radio.
Goes by quick.
You plan a date sometime this week with your spouse. And the next week, we want to hear about that date and find out how things went
You know what? I'm
because
going to put this in there too. If your kids and your parents haven't done this, help them plan for it.
yep.
And they'll see that it's important to you too. Try it. Try it. I remember doing this with my parents. And
Yeah,
then
100%.
now,
Because the
yeah,
kids have to get involved. So,
yes, I booked a cruise for my parents and I paid for
oh,
part of it.
wow.
And
Well,
now, yeah.
RJ and Kat, if you're listening, Mom and I are open to a cruise. So if you need a link on good cruises, I will send them to you so you can send your mom and dad on a cruise. So that's
You can do
all
it.
right. We are at the bottom of the third or 30-minute slot here again, Sister Joy. We're gonna have a part two here. We're going to invite some of our favorite couples to come and join us and share with us some of their practical dating tips that they have for each other. But for now, I want to, of course, greet our beloved executive minister, Brother Eduardo Vimanalo, who helps to support this program always by supporting us. Thank you so much, Paul. Brother Angelo Aranyamano, our deputy executive minister, Brother Wally Tarai, our station manager, and of course, to the most excellent executive producer, Brother Manley Ndaya. Thank you so much for your support, Poe. And of course, Kuya Tech for keeping us on the air. We want to thank you all for joining us on the Sunny Side Up Family Talks today. Please stay tuned because INC Radio Washington, D.C. Unstoppable is coming up next. We'll see you next week.